So there is one factor or one trait or one thing about us that makes us have good ideas. What do you think that is? Can I have some suggestions from you who sits here and listens to me? Is it our motivation? Is it our curiosity? What do you think? Let's hear something. Yeah? Fun? Yeah? Yeah, of course, has something to do with it. Yeah. Imagination? Yes. There's actually one thing that's more important than any other thing. What do you think that is? And it's something we don't think about as well, which is time is interesting, yes, but it's not the one. Tenacity? No. No. Relaxed? No. Isn't it interesting that that structure? Yes. Necessity is in the background there, of course. Yeah. It's the thing that makes us creative. The one thing that's the one who rules them all is knowledge. We can't be creative without knowledge, and this goes back to the AI discussion. You know, AI doesn't know much, so we know things, and therefore we can be creative. So let's say we exemplify here what I mean. Let's say all of our knowledge is exemplified by dots here. So this might be a book you've read somewhere sometime. This might be your Excel skills here. This might be your knowledge about Nordea's visions and goals, for instance. This might be someone that you lunch with sometimes, your colleague that you lunch with. And of course, we have hundreds of thousands of different dots like this, represented in our minds as dots, and I do this as dots here on the board. And one time for my dissertation, I interviewed technical specialists and at the industrial companies here in Sweden, and I really wanted to know what made them creative. How could they have all these marvelous ideas about new technology and how you can apply new technology? What does it all come from? So I remember one time I talked to an engineer. He was one of the top 3 in the whole company. This was Volvo Cars. He worked at Active Safety, and that's basically the department where they deal with passenger or pedestrian detection, trying to detect pedestrians, slow down the car before it hits the pedestrians, of course. So that kind of active safety. And he sat at that department, and he told me, so what I do, I go to Chalmers University Library every Friday, and I sit there and I read the whole day. That's what I do. And I was like, huh, you do? Even I can't read a whole day, you know. How is that possible? How do you have the time to read and write your patents at the same time? And you're so productive at the same time. And he said that, well, you see, Leif, if I don't read, I don't have any ideas for patents. It's all about the reading. And that really got me thinking about how creativity really works. Because you see, when he reads, maybe he learns something new. When he looks at, maybe it's a researcher group in Singapore, let's say, and they found a way to miniaturize something. Maybe there was a radar thing that was this big, and now we can make it this small, right? So he got a new dot. You can do this small now. That's interesting, right? And then, you know, maybe he knows that that's something that Lisa is looking at. So maybe I should go and talk to her. She's into this. And yeah, we have the production capabilities of this at Volvo. We can make this thing at Volvo. That's great. And I know that this is probably something that my manager is interested in, and that's my scope for my work and what I'm doing here at work, you know. And he ties together these dots like this, and this is an idea. This is becoming an idea now. So the roots for ideas is binding together dots, connecting dots. You heard this before, right? But you've maybe not been aware of how important it is to actually have the dots to connect, because if you don't have dots, then it's virtually impossible to have ideas. You can't make something out of nothing, right? So here's a 3-step process that I think that if you learn this, if you learn to apply it, if you really apply it, then I guarantee to you that you will have better ideas. You will increase your ability to have more ideas. And the first is to, whenever you come upon a new problem, let's say, how should we implement AI at our department? That's a new problem to solve, right? The first thing you do is to read up, or in Swedish it's called förkovra. Do you know a better word for it in English? Read up. Try to immerse yourself in new information and new knowledge about this. What is being written about it? Are there examples of this particular thing, of AIs? What are other banks doing? What are other companies doing with it? So really try to read up, to immerse yourself in new knowledge about this. Get new dots here into your system, into your brain, because dots are the fundamental building blocks of new ideas. The next thing you do is to focus. And I'm going to skip that because I think if I explain number 3 first, then you'll understand why number 2 is important as well. And this number 3 is actually to release. Just release your thoughts about it. This is called incubation in a fine word. Stop thinking about the problem, because may I ask you here, when are you getting your ideas? When are you having your ideas in the first place? Walking, yeah, running, jogging, bed, showers, gardening, forest, when you're walking in forest. So it seems that in discussions, yeah, when you're discussing a topic or discussing something else, or yeah. And it seems that the brain has 2 modes in it. The first mode is called focused mode. And this is basically the mode we are in most of the time at work. We think about our tasks, our mail, I should respond to this person, that, and I should do this and that, right? So it's when we direct our attention to a specific thing that we're focused on. That's focused mode. But then our brains also have another mode, and that's called the default mode. Default mode. And the brain is actually very good at switching back and forth between these modes. So I'll bet that during my lecture here, you've been focused on what I'm saying, but then, your brain has kind of wandered off, right? Then you're back again, and you're going to wander off again. So we switch between these 2 modes quite easily. It takes a microsecond to do it. And it's usually in this mode, the default mode, then that's where we have our ideas. And that's because it's in this mode when the brain is doing its associative search for things. So the brain jumps from dot to dot to dot, this thought leads to another thought and so forth. So it's in the default mode oftentimes when the brain actually binds together things and have its ideas. And so in step number 2, in the focus step here, what you do is basically you take maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that, and you write down what you have learned, bullet points from the first step, right? You start reading, you start collecting new dots that you don't have before. And then in the focus mode, you basically just, write down bullet point list. What have I learned, basically, right? Because when you do that, then you're going to do something called priming. And that's you're flagging some of these dots as especially important for the brain to go to when you're in the default mode. So you're basically encircling some of these dots here as especially interesting dots for the brain to go to. That's what you do here in focused step. And then when you go into default mode here, then maybe if you're lucky, the brain will do its thing and you'll bind together these dots. So this is actually the process of how creativity works. And so you know that knowledge is the fundamental building blocks in creativity. And as I said before in the group discussion or in the panel discussion, we are very limited in the way we perceive the world. It's basically that you can draw a circle around your dots here, and it's actually dark outside. You don't know things. You don't know what you don't know, basically. So we're all actually sitting in a rabbit hole like this. We're rabbits. We're looking out on the world through our very, very limited view on the world. And that means that in order to have good ideas that actually work in the real world, we need to bring in other perspectives. And we need to, first of all, of course, be humble that I am limited. I don't know everything. And then bring in other perspectives. What's the UX guy gonna say about this, for instance? What's the statistician gonna say about this? And really understand that other people, they have built their whole careers on their field of expertise. So maybe they have something interesting to say about the problem or my idea about the problem.